We are live. Wilson with a stack of comic books that he didn't read. Didn't even read any on the train ride home.
Um, I actually looked through. I did. Which one was it? I've been looking through. Funny enough, are like the freebie previews that they give you.
Okay.
So I picked these up. Like these are at the door. The way Midtown Comics is set up is when you're leaving, they got, and this is the Midtown Comics on Times Square. No, sorry,
Up
Grand
by
Central.
Grand Central?
By
Yeah.
Grand Central.
That's the one I've never been to. I've walked by it once or twice, but I've never been in.
I like that one because it's smaller and it's right off the subway. So I could get out, grab my books, and then jump right back on.
I used to come in and out of Port Authority up until 10 years, up until they opened Secaucus Junction. So the one on 40th Street and 8th Avenue was always right on my commute. So I would stop by there sometimes just for the heck of it.
Very similar to the other one. They're really nice layouts, big open windows, a lot of light. You know, I'm used to the dungeons that we used to have getting comic shops. So the layout of Midtown is quite nicely done.
The first time I went to the one on 40th Street, I couldn't find the entrance. Because the way the store is, the Midtown Comics on 40th Street and 7th Avenue, is on the corner of 40th Street and 7th Avenue. It's on the second floor. You can see it. You can look right into the store and go, oh, there's Midtown Comics. But the entrance is nowhere on the corner. The entrance is you have to walk down 40th Street about 50 feet. I mean, it's not close by.
Yeah.
And go up this 2 flights of stairway and to get in. But it was like the entrance to Midtown Comics on 40th Street is further away from the actual store than you would think first time going in. It was like, how do I get? I can see the store. It's right there. How do I get into it?
Both stores look like they're on the corner from visually, because the other one is same thing. It's on the second floor.
Because they are. They are literally on the corner. Just the entrance isn't.
Yes. So it's the same. And the second store has 2 entrances. One has an elevator. One side has an elevator. The other side is from the street. Same type of thing. Just as far away from each other that you can get from the corner and still be part of that building. And if you're not aware of them, you'll just walk right by it altogether. Yeah.
I can just remember being really confused trying to find my way in there for the first time, going, I know I have to be able to get there, but where's the door?
So by the doorway, they'll have the freebie stuff, whether it's books or pamphlets, things to let you know what's coming up and stuff like that. Right. So I end up looking through one of the Marvel books because it's the Mighty Marvel, the best of the Mighty Marvel backlist. And so I went through it. I went through it to see if there are any books in here that I've worked on. And so far, when going through it, there's not a single compilation. I've read a lot of these books, and it was like, I'm surprised that, my run on Thor, 2-3 issues, or Wolverine haven't been reprinted in the newer volumes. But as I'm going through it, it's like, oh, these are kind of cool. They're always printing the Death of Captain Marvel. That will always be in print. And
are they reprinting it at graphic novel size or smaller? Because last few reprints I've seen of it have not been graphic novel size.
I have the 90s reprint, and it's not graphic novel sized.
Right.
Of course, it doesn't quite fit with.
Well, the original went through a lot of printings, but I don't know that they ever reprinted it at graphic novel size after the original kind of went out of print.
Being that the price tag is $44.99, I'm guessing this is a trade paperback of a bunch of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
The
They
whole
usually reprint.
Starlin.
It's
They'll
called
start the whole.
Gallery Edition. Gallery,
Oh, okay. Gallery edition is the bigger ones. They
is it?
actually print them. Like they actually print them a size up from comic size.
Okay.
It would be around magazine size, only in comic book proportions. I forget the exact thing, but I've seen the Starlin one, the Captain Marvel gallery edition,
Okay.
and it was oversized.
Right.
I
'cause
guess
that
they make
one's here.
omnibus size only thinner, maybe a little smaller than omnibus size.
Okay.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
I
they're
guess that's a good.
doing it for Death of Captain Marvel. They're doing a Venom one. They're doing the Jim Starlin one you mentioned, and the Spider-Man wedding anniversary as well. $44.99. I have the original, so I don't have to pick these up.
Yeah.
So I basically went through that one. Turned out I already had this one at home. I got mixed up because it's a flip cover, so I did not realize. So now I have two of these, which, I mean, to have something extra is not that big a deal. So
yeah,
I could
since it was free.
Yeah, so I could read through it and basically get an idea what's going on in the Marvel universe, because so far, I picked a few things up to peek into the universe again to see what's there, but I have not got into it. Although people have been recommending X-Men, and I remember how it was with X-Men when I left. To me, X-Men is a hard sell, only because I know so much has happened. I don't know how many titles there are. And the big event that's coming up is this Fall of X. So I'm not even sure if I should jump on now, jump on after the fall. It's one of those things where so much is going on.
My friend Rob, who reads many more mainstream comics than I do, has liked the X-Men since that relaunch. What was the name of that? What relaunch? Where I thought who did it? Was it Brubaker a few years ago?
Yeah, House of X, Powers of 10.
House of X, Power of 10, whatever. He has liked it, not the Brubaker stuff, but the other stuff that was launched at the same time. He's buying like 2 or 3 X-Men books. He's been buying since then and enjoying them. I haven't read them. I've got no opinion.
I have not.
Except I tried reading House of X, Powers of X from the library.
Yeah, not Brubaker, Hickman. Brubaker stuff was way back.
Right, Hickman.
Okay. So I know little bits and pieces. I know that they're living on the island and stuff like that. And I've heard about that. So I was like, all right, this is not the first person to recommend X-Men.
Right.
But at the day that I was at the store and I looked in the X-Men section, there was not a regular X-Men book. So I don't know how many X-Men books there are. I saw something called X-Men Red. And it's like, they're red now? I remember gold. I remember yellow. I remember blue. There's not like, at the time, on that day, and it might have just been that day, I didn't see either an Uncanny X-Men or regular X-Men. So I wasn't even sure what to look at, because I know X-Men would just be a big thing.
For you and me, there are no regular Marvel books anymore. In terms of, there are so many different variations of the characters. I can remember, it must be 15 years ago now, when I got that Scar Son of Hulk books. I bought a couple of collected editions that were pretty. I was like, you know what? I'm feeling nostalgic. I want to read a Hulk comic. I couldn't find any. I couldn't find any regular Bruce Banner Hulk comic. They just didn't exist at that time. There was half a dozen Hulk books, but none of them were what I would. That's when I realized there is no regular Hulk. There is no regular Spider-Man to me anymore. We've gone. Too much time has passed. The Todd McFarlane Spider-Man isn't the regular Spider-Man to me. So of course, whatever they got now isn't going to be. With their 9 different Spider-Man books.
Exactly. And it's like, and I'm getting 2 of them and I haven't even read them.
You're never going to find the regular X-Men. You may as well just pick up any old X-Men that's out there if you want to read some.
And that's the thing. It's like, not wanting to sound like the old comic book guy, but I come from the school of every comic book should be somebody's first, and you should be able to pick it up off the shelf and read it. And it's like, no, that's ancient. That's ancient thinking. And so
that bust left the depot 20 years ago.
Exactly. So now it's like I'm basically picking up books because of either the cover design, or I am nostalgic for some stuff, and if that cover grabbed me, I'll pick it up. So going back to like a Spider-Man thing, I picked up this Extreme Venomverse just because it's Venom, and I like the cover. It's extreme, but I like the cover. There's just something about the cover, and this is how old I am. Venom came out when I just started collecting, so he's a new villain. He didn't exist beforehand. But I guess you could say he's my villain. He's my Spider-Man villain. He's not my favorite character, but in the sense of he was introduced after I was already reading Spider-Man. So to me, he's a new character in that weird sense of the way. And then I picked up a Godzilla Rivals book, Biollante versus Destroyer. This one I looked through quickly. It's weird, only in the sense of the art style is very cartoony for a Godzilla book. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know if that's going to be a distraction when it comes to the giant monsters, but it was one of those things where, as a Godzilla fan, I'm going to pick up a Godzilla book without Godzilla in it, as far as I'm aware of, because they're focusing on Biollante and Destroyer, two of the, I believe, Heisei era Godzilla villains. These are the villains that were there in the 90s, so these are my new villains. Instead of like the 70s Godzilla. And then, of course, I picked up Amazing Spider-Man number 25. And hopefully this should basically tell us what the story is really about, because when the new issues relaunched, it opens up with 6 months later after the event. So I believe this is supposed to be the event. I am not sure because I've been buying them, but I've missed a few issues. So I wanted to get them all together and read them all in one digest, so to speak, to basically figure out what is going on with Spider-Man. Do I want to stay on the title? And so I'm basically getting ready for this weekend to be a heavy reading weekend. So I have the pile of my books on my printer, that's how I have my books, is on the printer. That's my to-read pile. I also picked up, this is a variant to Amazing Spider-Man number 25, but it's the Disney characters as a what.
Okay, that's right. They've been doing those covers, right?
Yeah, so it's like, I'm a sucker for a cover like this. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Is that from last year?
I don't know when.
They've just been doing those, I think a couple months ago they started them.
Yeah.
Because there's another problem that Marvel has. Now, when they advertise something, then it comes out. They don't care that it came out. They're already advertising something else that's coming out in 6 months. So you never really get into something that's coming out because it's old news. If you picked up the comic now, fresh off the stands, it's old news.
Yes,
and they don't care.
Because they're advertising it when it has to be pre-ordered.
Right.
So it's like by the time it hits the stands 6 weeks later, they're advertising that week's stuff that has to be pre-ordered. So it's like,
I can't get excited beforehand. I have to be able to go, oh, you're telling me about this? I want to go get it now.
Yeah, which is why when something makes national news, no one can get it. It's like they go into the shop because they heard about a comic book on the news, and they're like, we don't have them because you had to have ordered them 6 weeks ago.
Right. And to me, it's like, unfortunately, I do not watch, other than TikToks, I don't watch what's coming up. So I haven't followed any of the YouTubers who are doing main reviews of what's coming up. I've only been watching what people picked up on Wednesday, and I would look at the stuff and go, "Oh, that sounds interesting," or someone will do a review of what they just picked up. I unfortunately don't watch the people who are talking about what's coming up, and I haven't looked for them, and that's mainly because at the time I was interested and looking, I couldn't find it. Kind of takes me back to when San Diego Comic-Con was doing these reviews from the con, and not a single one of them focused on the comics. So I got frustrated and just walked away altogether.
As I said before, luckily I get that email with the final order cutoff on it from my comic shop. So that's when I actually look at things. I'm like, oh, what's coming out? And I just have to order this before Monday night and I can get it. So I'll click on the link and see what it is and go, oh, I'm interested in that, and hit the order button.
I get quite a few emails from Midtown, so I'm still navigating what is important news. What is I get an occasional email, and I also have their app, which is weird because again, not having something similar to that is when they send out a text or whatever from the app. It has a chime to it. It has the Batman chime, which when you're not expecting it is quite startling. And I first would get the chime to let me know, oh, your books will be ready at this particular time. So I get an idea of what time to come in. And so I'm, again, just navigating what do I want to check off when I want to get information. And it took me a while. It took me a long while to navigate their website to figure out how to put things on a pull list. And it's not like it's hard. It was just like, I've never done that before. Some things are easier than others. And again, the downside to it, I would say, is that they'll have selections of stuff that you could check off to be part of your pull list. But that book may not necessarily still be in print. So it might have been put up there, and then maybe the book was canceled halfway through or whatever. So there's certain things that, or they might have that non-monthly schedule. They might be too independent, and they come out whenever they come out. So it's one of those things with you have to have 10 items in your pull list. And I got really picky of what those 10 items would be. Because it's like, you know, and one way it's doing what I wanted it to do is getting me out of the house on Wednesdays to at least travel downtown, get out, look at the books, see what's on the wall, kind of get back into the comic industry from that point of view. Because I learned nothing of lettering comics except for the comics I'm working on, but I'm not too sure what's going on in the industry, so to speak. So getting to the comic shop every week seems to be a little easier. And the reason why I like going to that shop compared to the other shop is because it is smaller. So you can actually kind of get into the conversations everyone's having, because they're usually having some great conversation. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's not, when the shop is too big, too many things are happening at the same time, and there's no way to talk to people. When it's a little smaller, then there's at least, yes, it's busy because it's New Comic Book Wednesday, but at the same time, you're there for a few minutes, you can have a quick conversation about comics, and then be on your way.
Gus is here tonight.
Welcome.
Good evening.
I've
been playing a Marvel. I've been playing a Marvel phone game for some months now. Marvel Snap, very well done. Kind of a simplified Magic the Gathering. Oh, okay. I don't think I've checked that one out.
I've seen the commercials for it. I usually don't play. The closest thing of a game I play on my app is I collect. Topps does a Marvel, Disney, and Star Wars card set that you can buy them, but if you do things in it as a game, you could collect coins and then do that. So I don't want to buy anything because it's all digital. So there's physically nothing that exists. So I don't want to buy something, but I do collect the cards because they're fun. And it's just a few minutes I could go on, get all my freebie stuff, and then move on. But I've seen a lot of the other games and they look cool, but the screen's, yeah. Oh, I'm an old man. The screen's too small to be playing video games on.
Yeah, I play on my iPad. I can't play on a phone.
Yeah, so I don't even read comics on my phone. I rather read it on the iPad. Oh, yeah, because I had Comixology on my phone, and it's just too small. I know you can zoom in, but it's not as fun as on an iPad because it's just bigger, and I think comics needs that.
One of the comics I got this week was a Kickstarter, Dean Haspiel's COVID Cop. A Dean Haspiel deep cut. Dean is an old college friend of mine. We went to Sumi Purchase together for a couple of years. He was the king of the mini comics in the 90s. What was that?
No, I did not know that you had like a personal relationship with him.
Oh yeah. I have not seen him since about 2004, I think. Mm-hmm. But on Facebook, of course, I see him and stuff, and I always liked his work. But this is so like I said in that Image comic one, the one-page Dean was my favorite thing at the end of the whole anthology. It was one-page Dean Haspiel comic at the end. But this is really interesting. First of all, I like Dean's art. It's got some nice art in it. He's a good storyteller. But this is really, it's hard to describe. It's almost whimsical, poetic kind of thing. It's like because the basic concept, I think, is, how would you describe it? COVID kind of wrecked the world. And somehow there are people who wanted to make more people have COVID. Like it's a whole different world now since COVID took over. And he's a cop who's fighting against COVID. And it really has nothing to do with any of that. It's kind of all an excuse for Dean to tell this story about the COVID cop who is sort of, I guess he'd sort of be like a Judge Dredd type character in that he just kind of wants to enforce the law and get people to do the right things. And his ex-wife, who's now against him because she's pro-COVID or something. And there's these it's just Dean making up characters, having fights between them. There's a lot of like romance going on between the guy and his ex-wife and flashing back. And then, this crazy villain in a giant bunny suit with this crazy COVID villain. But like the writing can just be so poetic, kind of. Why Major Fallout? Why not Admiral Amok? General Disaster, President Pestilence. Major Fallout is the architect of their rhetoric and fear. I thought I was following orders, but there was only one way to manage the virus. What's that? Let the day in before the day goes away. And incubate. And it's just, and it's this strain. It's this really, I don't know what, it's like Stan Lee by way of beat poets kind of writing. And I just found the writing really interesting, not in terms of the plot, but in terms of the actual words he uses in his writing. He uses a bit of it really seems like beat poetry at some. It seems like poetry at some times in the middle of this really nice, lush artwork with these crazy characters and just sort of insane situations that are going on. It's like he thought, what would be the most insane situation to come out of COVID? And he kind of made a comic about that. And the situation is these cops and robbers fighting each other somehow. And it's like, but it really has nothing to do with COVID. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Too.
What was that?
I'm digging the color palette. That's
the color palette is really. Let me get bigger so I can show you a little more. The color palette. The color palette was really nice. The writing was really nice. The plot was almost inconsequential. A lot of pink and blue in this color palette. Some nice greens. coming through. Some monsters being cut in half with chainsaws. But I always enjoy Dean's artwork, but I really enjoyed his words in this one too. Just like sort of the rhythm of the words and the alliteration and the crazy stuff going on. I don't know if this is going to be available in comic shops or anything. Like I said, it was a Kickstarter for me. But you can sign up for Dean. I think he's got an email newsletter you can sign up for too.
All right, I'll check that out.
Masket or casket was the saying he had in one of them. That was the sort of Judge Dredd saying that COVID had. COVID cop, masket or casket. He's got a Substack too. Oh, there's a DeanHaspiel.com. DeanHaspiel. In case anyone ever out there wants to check it out. But I really enjoyed this, I must say. I liked it a lot. That seems like high quality paper. Yeah, it's got a cardstock cover and a very nice matte, good hard cardstock cover, and a nice bright white matte paper interior. That's just cool. It's just well done as opposed to another one, which I didn't get this from Kickstarter. Impossible Jones, Captain. I've been buying some Impossible Jones stuff. Hello, Wall. Hello, Wilson's Godzilla. I did Goblin.
Hello, Tick Goblin. Welcome.
I've been buying this Impossible Jones stuff. I think it's being Kickstartered too, but I got this. But then it comes out through comic shops later. Because it's like I was looking at the latest Impossible Jones Kickstarter, and like to get the comic was like $15 with shipping and this and that. And this is like a $6 comic. So I was like, you know what? I'll wait and see if it comes out to the comic shops, which it probably will. But there was a problem with the printing of this one. I don't know if you can see it over the video, but all the lettering, you can kind of, let me see if I can get, you can kind of see it in the, you can't really see it over the screen. The lettering is just slightly blurry. It's just got, what it looks like is, I think this may be short run printing. Like the place that Bad Idea was doing for some of their short run 12-page books a couple months ago. They wanted their stuff delivered as JPEGs. High resolution JPEGs, but JPEGs nonetheless. And once again, you probably can't tell over the screen, but there's just like a little bit of blurriness to the black on white lettering. And I think it's JPEG artifacting. It's actually looking a little better now than when I was reading it in direct sunlight. And it wasn't terrible or anything. And the art looks fine. But the lettering is just a slightly blurry. You know, I don't know if anyone else will notice it but us production guys. But I'm sitting there the whole time going, why is this lettering just ever? It's like, 90% sharp, but it's not 100% sharp. So it's not terrible or anything. It doesn't ruin it, but I'm like, so, and it also, I think they used a rich black under the letters, which means they have color under the lettering, which sometimes shifts, and that makes it blurry too. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, there's like a halo of yellow and red around some of the lettering. So I was just like, man, I don't know. I wonder if that was because it was printed on a short run as a JPEG. But it doesn't affect the artwork much at all. So that was just a production thing on this one that made me go, huh? Otherwise, it's a good comic. I like this.
Yeah.
What was that?
It does sound like, from what you're describing, it does sound like when it has to go into JPEGs. And some print on demands are like that, where they want them in RGB.
You can really see it on the logo here. Like I didn't. It wasn't just looking through it now under artificial light. I was actually reading this one in sunlight, and it looked much worse in sunlight. But the black line of the artwork looks unaffected, which is good. But just strange. But if you've never read Impossible Jones, it's got sort of a Michael Allred art style. It's Carl Kessel is writing it. And who's the artist? I like the artist a lot. David Hahn is the pencils. So I guess it's going right from pencils. Doesn't look like it. The colors is Tony Avina. It does not look like it was shot from pencils. So maybe he's digitally drawing it or something. I don't know what. He's not credited as artist, and he's not credited as, and there's no inker credited. It's just credited as pencils. So that's a little weird. And did you guys follow the Werewolf by Night saga on my Facebook page?
A bit.
I watched a bit of it. I didn't get to see the end of it, but I believe there was a confirmation of who penciled it.
Yes,
that Jimmy Wilson.
For those of you who don't know, I was showing this last week just because it went for sale on Heritage Auction, and it was listed as drawn by Marvel artist. I was like, Marvel artist. Then I tried to look up who it was credited to, and no one seemed to know. That people said either Ron Wilson or John Romita and Ernie Chan inked it, or somebody else inked it. I can't remember the other person they said. But I wrote a Facebook post about it, saying, does anybody know who did this? And people answered, but also Walter Simonson echoed my Facebook post. And it was somebody on Walter's thread that said, I asked Ron Wilson, and he said he drew it. So now we know Ron Wilson is the penciler on this. Definitely. Some people still think John Romita had a hand in it. I'm not sure. Only because that nose right there on that woman does look like a John Romita nose. But
and the way
Ron Wilson could have just drawn a John Romita nose and eye. He could have been, he's not, his style isn't that far away from John Romita's. But what makes me think John Romita didn't is like in the scan, John Romita usually did his corrections, as far as I could tell or know, after the inks were done. So it's like the pencils would be done, the inks would be done, and then maybe John Romita would be asked to do corrections. That might not have been all the time. I don't really know. But these corrections definitely weren't done. I mean, there's no corrections on this. You can't see any paste ups over top of stuff. So if John Romita actually had a hand in this, it had to be in the pencil stages. Unless he inked it. I don't know. Because what drove me crazy was the amount of people who said Ernie Chan inked this. And I'm like, right. I don't know if Ernie Chan inked it because I gave 3 examples of things I've never seen Ernie Chan do. I've never seen Ernie Chan do a chisel tip marker. I've never seen Ernie Chan do this technique right here where he used whiteout over hatching lines to go back and make those dotted lines. I've never seen Ernie Chan do that in all the Ernie Chan work I've looked at. And I've also never seen Ernie Chan use a brush quite like this. Ernie Chan is very, very precise with his brush work. And this just seems a little more built up over time, not with precision, but with just putting marks down. That to me doesn't seem like like an Ernie Chan technique. But everybody who thought Ernie Chan did it would just go, no, Ernie Chan did it. And I'd go, what about this? What about that? No, Ernie Chan did. Maybe he was just experimenting. And I'm like, and I actually went and looked at a bunch of Ernie Chan. As a matter of fact, let me share that with you. bunch of Ernie Chan artwork that I could find to see. Matter of fact, I looked through. I have two. This was done in 1973. These were also done Ernie Chan over Gene Colan. Nothing like all those three techniques in these two whole issues.
Okay, but Ernie Chan over the because that Gene Colan, you know how scratchy he can get, and Ron Wilson is more precise.
But hold on. What I'm saying is Ernie Chan's inks over Gene Colan are very precise. Well, let me show you what I mean. Let me share my.
So yeah, he does. He does put more precise inks when he's etching.
Right, Ernie Chan does very precise work. There's nothing sketchy about it, and there's sketchiness to this, is what I'm saying. This to me looks too sketchy for Ernie Chan. It's not precise enough for Ernie Chan. Besides the fact that I've never seen him use a chisel tip marker, and I've never seen him do this whiteout technique. Matter of fact, I was looking at Ernie Chan artwork. I've never seen him use whiteout except to cover up a mistake. He never used whiteout as a technique. And I'll show you what I mean. Let me share my screen again. Where is it? Present. Share screen. Let me share Photoshop.
Yeah, to me, that's why I knew it couldn't have been Romita inking, because Romita's inks are so much different. He didn't use whiteout. He used razor blade to paper.
That is what Ernie Chan would do too. See right here, this is all whiteout over. Can you see that?
Yes.
That's whiteout over ink. Now let me. And also, Ron Wilson did not remember who drew it, but he thought it may have been Mike Esposito. Here is how precise Ernie Chan inks are. He really. You see, he always follows the form there in Conan. You seen Conan here? I want to make sure. Let's see. And here's the closest I could find to any kind of fur. And look how he keeps it a little looser, and he follows the form, but it's still not nearly as loose as in that arm on the werewolf. He even keeps that. He follows the different forms of the muscles with his line, which really wasn't done. And look at his hair. His women's hair is once again very precise, as opposed to, let me bring it back to, this is another thing that made me thought it might not be him. This hair over here is not precise. It's kind of loosey-goosey. It's not. If you look at Ernie Chan hair is very precise. There's one in here, and even here, look where he's doing all these different stone techniques. Very precise. All those very precise. He really uses that brush very precisely. There's no loosey-goosiness to his. He builds up. Where's an example of it here? Conan pinup. This is how Ernie Chan builds up marks. He uses a lot of little precise marks to build up form. And if you look in here, that's where the scratching came in. He doesn't use whiteout. He scratches into the ink, much like John Romita did. What you do is you take a razor blade and you make these dotted lines by scratching right into the black ink. And let's see, where's once again, really precise stuff. Even in all his textures, look at how organized this hatching is. Very precise. Let's see what else we got here. Once again, very organized. Look at that hair, very organized. Even in here, here's a little bit of fur. He keeps it a little looser, but still very organized, going in one direction. And look at this hair down here. Pretty darn organized. All these little things, those are equidistant apart right there. Here's a stone monster. Down here, organized according to form, organized marks over here. Let's see.
Reminds me a lot of Ramita's cleanness and precise.
Right.
Put
and
down.
And even look here. Even when he does this, where a lot of inkers would use whiteout right here to cut across the figure, he doesn't. He just doesn't draw in the middle of there. And you can see he does it over here too. Once again, a lot of inkers would use whiteout, but he doesn't. He just doesn't ink up until those points. So he doesn't use whiteout as a technique at all. Down in here, you can see he used whiteout to cover up an error of some kind. But here is where other inkers would use whiteout as a technique, where they just paint over these speed lines with white. Matter of fact, I think I have an example of Esposito who, well, here's Esposito using whiteout as a technique. He's making this clear plastic by painting whiteout over these lines. So Esposito, who Ron Wilson thinks it may have been, used whiteout as a technique. He didn't scratch into it. So there's evidence of Esposito using whiteout as a technique. Here's some more Esposito. Once again, using whiteout, not quite as part of his technique to cover up, but you can see how much more disorganized Esposito's lines are. They're kind of scratchy. They're not nearly as precise as Ernie Chan's lines are. What else do we have here? Oh, here's one where he's using, once again, even his speed lines aren't as precise. And here he is using tons of whiteout in there in that rubble. So Esposito definitely, and here's what I mean, where Esposito was using whiteout as a technique, where Ernie Chan just didn't draw anything in here. Esposito came back in and used whiteout to white out where that motion line is. So there's the difference. Ernie Chan wouldn't even do this with whiteout, which plenty of other inkers did.
Yeah, I'm leaning more to Esposito just by the little you showed me. If we can find some fur with it,
look how
be able to.
That guy that Iron Man was fighting. That guy that Iron Man was fighting. You know, the muscles, not the way the muscles are inked. That's disorganized.
Yeah. That's why I'm there. And what's crazy is I'm going through all this. This is when I discuss inking with people. This is what we do. Like when I'm discussing inking with Bob Wyacek and Ed Murr, this is what we do. If you ask Bob Wyacek, who he thinks this inker is, he'll take a look at it and go, "Oh yeah, that's Mike Esposito's line. I can tell that because he made it like this," and go here. He can explain. He can give you the evidence why he thinks it's Mike Esposito or whoever's line. Like I said, I'm not even 100% sure this is Mike Esposito. I'm not 100% sure it's not Ernie Chan, right. But I don't think. But at least it's like I'm like I tell you why. It's like in all those discussions, people were like Ernie Chan 100%. I'm like, but what about these three things? Nope, it was Ernie Chan. And I'm like,
yeah, Joe Rubinstein is adamant.
Yeah, Joe Rubinstein was adamant, 100% it was Ernie Chan. Even when Ron Wilson said, I think it's Mike, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but it might be Mike Esposito. Now, Joe Rubinstein was like, no, Ernie Chan. And he wasn't the only one. Matter of fact, it was funny because I think it was on Walter's thread in Facebook about this same thing. Someone posted that on Twitter, Phil Hester was asking the same question. Oh. He must have seen the same thing like I did on Heritage Auction. So he went on Twitter, was asking his followers, this says Marvel Artist, who do you think did it? And someone sent me the link to that. And their conclusion was John Romita drew it and Ernie Chan inked it. So I was like, I wrote him back with, I made a screenshot of the guy saying I asked Ron Wilson and he said he drew it. But I'm like, just because people say somebody did it, you got to show some evidence.
Yeah, I like the fact that you went in and got the evidence. You got to see the show, because again, when I was at Marvel, that's when I paid more attention to the artwork, right. And then I could look at the art and say, "Oh, I know who inked this," because there are clues. The same way they are with pencilers, there are with inkers. pencilers, there's a specific style that once they have it, they have it. Where inkers, you have to go in and really go past the penciler style to look at the inker style. And sometimes you won't notice it until you zoom in. Like Al Bay had a specific look to his ink lines on Avengers that no other inker has. And so that was the thing. But when you're looking at the artwork in front of you, it's a lot more, it's a lot easier for it to jump out than it is looking at a JPEG online.
Right.
Especially if people who are looking on it on their phones. And I could see, I was leaning towards Romita, that he had to have a hand in it somewhere.
But once again, because of that woman's face, that nose right there looks like a Romita nose.
Right. That the man's face is definitely not Romita. No. In fact, a couple of days later, I looked at looks like early Chaykin. Could be early Chaykin, especially from the time that somebody said maybe it's Kane, because Kane drew the story inside.
Right.
Okay, but if it wasn't Kane drawing the cover, who could it be that was connected to Kane? It could have been, especially because if it's done for Marvel and somebody else inks it, it doesn't look like regular Chaykin, not even early 70s Chaykin. But the face kind of looks like it.
I even leaned towards Kane at one point too. When I
leaned towards who?
Like I also thought Kane had something to do with it. A knee-jerk reaction looking at that cover made me.
Well, that's because you see an upturned nose, you think Gil Kane.
No, but those are not Kane angled faces.
No,
Kane always draws the faces from like this.
Yeah. Right.
You know.
And like I said, and I definitely thought this was not a John Romita layout. Because John Romita almost always worked in like full figures.
Yeah,
he was,
and always with lots of room to show the characters moving.
Right. He did not work close up like this. And like I said, and the chisel tip marker really made me go, "Who is this?" Well, like I said, at least, and all I had to do was put in. Ernie Chan, 1973, Marvel Comics, and Mike Esposito, 1973, Marvel Comics. And it brought me up samples of them that I could look through. And like I said, being that I knew there were things that I wanted to check for Ernie Chan, because I cannot remember Ernie Chan using any whiteout effects. Like I said, I remember Ernie Chan for the precision of his marks and how he built up form with those. I mean, he was very illustrative. But I don't remember but he wasn't a effects guy. So like that and I can't remember many guys who did that whiteout effect, but I especially couldn't remember Ernie Chan doing it. But yeah, I don't think it was Ernie Chan.
No.
No matter how many people think it was. I'm like, tell me why you think it is, but no. They just think it is.
Because they might have just quickly did a Google search and found something that was incorrect or in that time period.
I really think that's all it is. Since somebody said Ernie Chan on the Grand Comic Book Database, other people just repeat that. Even if it's obvious to me that there's three things in here that I've never seen Ernie Chan do on any cover, and he's very distinctive.
Okay, so I'm going to update the Grin Comics database with that. I still don't know how I'm going to. I can point to the conversation that says Ron Wilson says he did it for the penciler, but for the inker, I'm just gonna have to add another name because we can't prove that it's not Ernie Chan, even if we show you all this analysis that you just did.
Yeah. It doesn't prove it's not him. It just proves it's probably not him.
Yeah. The thing is, there's an Alcala there's an Alcala potential credit there as well. There's no Alfredo Alcala in here. None.
No. Not at all. Like I said, especially all those Filipino guys were very precise. Very precise. And when building up their forms, I don't remember. Maybe it was Alex Nino Filipino, right?
Yep.
maybe he did some whiteout effects because his stuff was so out that I've never seen the originals, but maybe he did. But most of them were really, really precise and weren't going back with whiteout to make to as a technique. They did their technique right there very precisely and moved on. So that and like a marker, chisel tip marker. I can't think of anyone who used chisel tip marker in 1973. Speaking of chisel tip markers, I don't know if you saw my art supply haul video. I did an art supply haul video. I posted it on Thursday. But one of the things I bought were because usually I bought like $350 worth of art supplies from Jerry's Artorama and some from Amazon. But what's something I check out the clearance section or the sales section in the website just to see if there's something I want to throw on. And they had these Soho black markers, 3 of them for $1. I was like, you know what? For $1, I'll buy 3 black markers. I was testing them out today. What a waste of $1.
Really?
These are possibly the worst made markers in history. They've got one side is like a chisel tip, and one side is a bullet tip. And first of all, 2 out of the 3 of them were just about dried out to begin with because the caps don't fit very tightly. So even though they came in this sealed package, still one of the caps was loose and practically dried out. And then the one that wasn't dried out wasn't very good. It's like even the one that wasn't dried out was pretty dry. Let me see. Where's my testing paper? It's just a wet one.
It like sounds dry. Oh.
I don't even know. Then I tried refilling one of them, as I often do with markers. I'm like, let's just see if I can refill it. Oh, this one's worse.
Yeah, I could just hear how bad it is. Like hearing it, I could feel it. I know the texture you're doing.
And it was just like, ooh, there's the bullet tip, so the chisel tip. They're all 3 of them are just, and like the tip doesn't feel good.
No, I can hear it, how bad it is.
Yeah, you can hear how dry it is, brand new out of the package. So I'm like, I'm just gonna toss these 3. It was a waste. It was a waste of $1. I never expected that.
Well, I can know not to get those.
Yeah, I was like $1 for 3 black markers. I'll give it a try. What could go? I have to get at least get $1 worth of use out of them. Nope.
Nope. You learned a lesson. That's what it was.
Could have bought another spawn instead.
Could have bought another. I did get. Hold on cue. Another spawn. The latest spawn 3. This one. It was good. I enjoyed it, but it's like there was a fight at the beginning for no reason whatsoever. There's this whole big spawn war going on between heaven and hell, yada yada yada. So Spawn wants to get into this one place. I don't know, some kind of castle. So he comes. And there's this guy here whose name I don't remember, who's some kind of angel who's trapped in this negative zone, let's call it. And Spawn's like, can you get us out of this negative zone and into the castle? And they're trying to make a deal because the guy's like, the angel's like, good, I wanted you here. If you do this thing for me, I'll do that thing for you. Spawn's like, okay. That sounds like a good deal. If you do that thing for me, I'll do that thing for you. And then they fight. And I'm like, why are you two fighting? You just agreed to help each other. But they were fighting because like Spawn insulted him for something. And I'm just like, so they fight for 2 pages, and then Haunt shows up and goes, why are you 2 guys fighting? We have to go to the next place. They're like, okay, we'll go to the next place. And I'm like, They just fought for. They just came to an agreement and then had a fight.
They need to fill up 2 more pages. What are we going to do?
So we got to have these 2 guys fight no matter what. It was like, you just agreed to help each other. Why are you fighting? What does it say? It was a fun issue.
Sounds like he did it in the wrong order, because it's usually always the two heroes show up, they have to fight, and then they do the team up.
Right. First you have a disagreement and fight, and then you agree to team up. They agreed to team up and then fought.
Heel turn. Vince McMahon told me to.
And they fought because the angel couldn't handle the truth. What? Okay. Whatever. It was weird, but a solid issue of Spawn and still only $2.99. So I'm picking it up. Oh, speaking of many Spawns, you're not going to believe the goofy thing I got this week, which I paid 20 Spawns for.
Really?
Which is actually pretty cheap. You, of course, know. Where is it? My first CGC I ever got, the Clone 9.8 5th anniversary edition, #1. And then the week after that, I got the Clone 9.8 as unslabbed and the sketch one. Well, add to that the original first printing of Clone #1, 9.8, 2 different alternate covers. Why, you ask? Because they were there. Now, if you remember, I paid the cheapest you can get a CGC comic for is around $35 to $40. I paid $35 for this one, which with shipping included, I'm talking. And usually a Clone #1 9.8, this is the original one. Usually if you look for this on eBay, you're going to pay $50 for it. Somebody had the 2. You're going to pay $50 plus 10 shipping. So you're going to pay $60 for that. Someone had the 2 of these for $50 plus $10 shipping. So I said to myself, when am I ever going to see those 2 again for $30 a slab? So I thought, now I've got the greatest collection of Clone #1s of anyone on Earth. But I like bought them just because they were there. $60 for the 2 for the pair. That's 20 Spawns.
That's amazing. But by you buying them, that's going to tip the numbers. People are going to think there's a rush for them.
There's a run for Clone. I did see a couple of auctions that said Clone #1. What did it say? It said optioned. Optioned for a movie or something like that. I'm like, how long ago was it optioned for a movie? Because I don't think it was recent.
It was probably reported on Comic Scene. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's the saying is how many books. Yeah.
But it turns out you can get a slabbed 9.8 for $30 if you buy 2 of them.
Well, maybe you can flip it and you can buy a full set of Star Comics' Mad Balls, also slabbed.
I figure in 2 years from now, if I want to get rid of them, I can easily get $100 for the 3 together. Why not?
Option for a movie.
Option for a movie. I'll be sure to put that next to it. But I was sitting there for like 2 weeks after I saw those. I'm like, my goodness. Should I get those? Finally, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get them. That way I don't have to think about them ever again. And sure enough, since I got them, I haven't given them one thought.
Amazing.
It was worth the $60 to get that thought out of my head.
Yeah. You finally now have slabbed issues. You have a great story to talk about. So that's worth it right there. And then once it does get optioned for a movie and the movie does come out, you can say you were there first. You were there beforehand. You're a prophet.
Who's got better 9.8s than me?
There you go.
Of clone number 1. It's funny too is I didn't even know that Charlie Adler did an alternate cover. That was a surprise to me when I saw the two. I was like, Charlie Adler, and it's not a very good Charlie Adler cover either. I've seen him do much better, but oh well.
Yeah.
Throw it on the clone number 1 pile. Though next time I order from mycomicshop.com, I'm going to get another copy of Clone number 1 just to throw in, because it's $3 to get an actual loose raw copy of Clone number 1 is like $3.
So do you have all the variant covers?
There's only 2, I think. I didn't even know there was a variant cover until I saw that Charlie Adler one. There's more variant covers, I think, to the 5th anniversary one than there was to the original. Because I think it came out in 2012, and that was probably just before everything got 6 alternate covers, no matter what.
Right.
It's like you don't put out a... Matter of fact, did you see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin? You know that miniseries that came out last year, was it? The year before? 5 issues. They're putting out a book, hardcover book, collecting just the covers. How many pages is that book? Let's put it this way. The hardcover collection of that Turtles is 226 pages. That's the actual issues. Guess how many pages the covers are? 200.
What?
200 pages. So the book of covers is one comic book short over the actual graphic novel. That's how many covers were made for that series. I was like, whoa, I did not know that.
I did not know how many covers were being done for that series. Because I didn't touch that series until after the trade paperback came out. So I never got to really see them on the stands to even know they had multiple covers.
I got to figure if you got a book full of multiple covers that's 200 pages long, there's got to be at least 150 multiple covers, right?
At least, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are they stretching it out by doing one covers the pencils, one covers the inks,
I don't know,
and then one covers the so 3. So they might be 3 pieces of covers for one piece of art. Maybe
there could be, but you never. A lot of times with that, they show you like the finished cover and then a little version of the pencils and inks too. So that's why I'm going for a quarter of the book is stretching it out. You know,
right?
If half of the book is stretching it out, it's still 100 covers.
Yeah,
that's like a lot. I can imagine a clone movie. Lonely girl meets a guy and his clone joins in. You know and I know my clone sleeps alone. Do you know that Pat Benatar song?
No.
There's a Pat Benatar song, early 80s, called My Clone Sleeps Alone, which I've always liked. It's like the single greatest cloning pop song ever, because there's just like no songs about cloning. But I actually want to put this on a t-shirt one day. My favorite line in the song, because the song is about, I guess it's a criticism of cloning, because it's how...
Was it released with Multiplicity? Because that's the only clone movie of the 80s.
Long before it, I believe. But my clone, the reason the song is called My Clone Sleeps Alone is because clones are not allowed, in the context of the song, clones are not allowed to have like sexuality. They're kind of like robots or something. they don't have full personalities. They're just made for some other purpose other than to be human beings. So that's why her clone sleeps alone. There's no clone sexuality. There's no clone human interaction. There's no clones don't have friends kind of thing. And one of the lines in it, which to me is just, it's like the way this line, the confluence of events that had to happen to make this line happen is just staggering. But the line is, "No naughty clone ladies allowed in the 80s." And I'm just like, well, first of all, you're not going to think of that line unless it's the 80s. Unless it's the 80s, you're not going to think of that rhyme you're not going to think of ladies in 80s rhyme unless it's the 80s. No one today is writing a line rhyming the 80s with something. It's just not going to happen. And you had to write a song about cloning. And you had to write a song about how clones weren't allowed to be sexual. So it's kind of like, that's the most brilliant line ever that only exists. Like there was only like a really small window of time and effort and creativity for that one line to exist. And it does. I'm like, wow, it just blows my mind that no naughty clone ladies allowed in the 80s exists as a line in a song. So I want to make a t-shirt with a picture of Pat Benatar that says "No naughty clone ladies allowed in the 80s" underneath it. Nobody else did it, but you know.
While you're describing that, I'm picturing almost a Nigel style piece of artwork with just a bunch of her just standing there, like a comic book cover, where they all look the same, except for one looking the other direction. It just seems
there you go.
In that way, you know.
Because there are songs that mention cloning, like Twilight Zone. Places a Madhouse feels like being cloned, but that's not about cloning. There are very few songs that are actually about cloning.
What I find, and the whole thing with songs and things like that is going back to like the Rainbow Connection, right? Kermit the Frog sings a song, and it opens up with, why are there so many songs about rainbows? And there isn't. There's only two. That song itself and Over the Rainbow. That's it. I know of no other ones. And that became the second one to exist. And it's just wild that, you know, when someone wrote that, how many rainbow songs were they thinking about? There's so many more love songs than rainbows. And I'm trying to rack my brain where I don't know any songs that has clones in it at all.
No.
I could probably name you a bunch of movies about clones.
Plenty of movies about clones, TV shows about clones, comic books about clones, but it's not really a big songwriting topic.
No. There's probably more songs about robots than they are about clones. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, look at just the odds of that line existing. No naughty clone ladies allowed in the 80s. It's just so small. But it exists to amuse me.
Well, there's another song about rainbows, but you won't have heard of it unless you used to take acid and were European. It's called Rainbow.
I'm not European. I haven't done acid.
He's on acid right now, but he's not European.
Right. The funny thing is, this song did have airplay in Germany and in the Netherlands. It's a happy hardcore tune by the German music project Dune, and it came out in 1996 called Rainbow to the Stars.
Yeah, I'm sure there are more songs about rainbows, but they were probably before our time.
Probably.
There were probably more rainbow songs in like the 1950s. Why Kermit the Frog was singing about it in 1979, I'm not sure.
Well, he came from music's different over there.
I got a bunch of free comic book day stuff.
Oh, did you go?
Leftover. What was that?
No, I'll go to ask. Did you go to free comic book day?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
free comic book day is not for me. I'm there every week anyway. So.
Right. I have the same mentality about it. It's like that's for new people getting comics. The times that I go to the free comic book day events is usually when I'm asked to come and be like, a local artist. I'm doing sketch cards and stuff like that, or as a creator being there to sell some of my stuff and then just talk about art and comics and stuff like that. But I don't go just to go get the free books because I'm not who those books are for. Because
matter of fact, I'm like, why did I take these? I do that every free comic because Roy's like, here, free comic, take some of these, because they got them left over. They want to get rid of them.
I'll take them.
Everybody walks in, 2 boxes of free comics, take some. But I took some just for their cover. This guy's name is Hack. I don't know if it's short for anything. He's done a lot of good covers for Archie. He just does these really nice horror covers for Archie. I've gotten some here or there.
That's a really great cover, yeah.
Really, I like his stuff. I'm like, you know what? This is going in my cover. I bought just for their cover section. I'll get that one. And another one I picked up was this Red Sonja one, which is by Nick Bradshaw, who is like the Art Adams type guy. Right. He does a nice job with his covers. So I picked that one up. And then I got, let's see. That's not one. Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Pull this out. Fantagraphics. Once again, I just kind of liked the throwback San Francisco 1970s vibe of it, 60s, 70s, hate Ashbury vibe to it. So I picked that up. I like this Jeff Lemire cover. It's again just a nice little Jeff Lemire piece, Fish Flies. And then there was a Frazetta-verse one. I was like, I may as well pick this up and look. The cover was just kind of cut and paste, but I was like, all right, some Frazetta cut and paste. I'll give that a look. And then I picked up this. I don't even know why I picked up these. Well, I don't know why I picked up. This cover's not even particularly good. But I was like, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, I'll pick it up and see the dawn of DC. And then this one I picked up.
Whenever one of the editors asks Jim Lee for a cover, he just phones it in.
Is that Jim Lee? I didn't even notice.
I think it is.
No, it's Jason Fabak.
Oh, the guy who did the Three Jokers comic.
Yeah, Fabok.
Okay, so instead of drawing like Dave Gibbons, he's now drawing like Jim Lee.
But it may as well be a Jim Lee cover. They're just standing there sticking their chests out. But then I got this one just because everybody was like, "Ooh, first appearance of all those characters." I'm like, I picked it up. I was like, all right, I have to pick it up because it's the first appearance of all these characters. How can I not pick it up? Well, that was my free comic book day stuff. It'll end up in some box, and like 3 years from now, I'll get rid of it, except for the ones that I'll go and bought that actually have good covers. That I'll go in my bought just for their covers section.
Are the stories in those freak? Are the stories in those Freak Brothers set in the 70s or set now?
Let me see. They got to be reprints. Why wouldn't they? And I actually have a collection of the Freak Brothers. Also featuring Cat Freddy's cat. Oh, these look like old ones.
Oh, they're reprints. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're reprints.
It would be kind of funny to see the characters in a story now, but acting and speaking like they're still in the 70s.
Well, this is a full comic, though. A lot of these have like ads in them halfway through. This is a full Freak Brothers comic, so that's good. The Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. But yeah, often I pick up these.
I've never read any of their books.
I read them when somewhere back there was a big, thick omnibus. Oh, there it is. It's about an inch and a half thick of Freak Brothers stuff. Came out, I don't know, must be 15, 20 years ago now. And that's the first time I read them. And I still haven't made it all the way through the book. It's drug humor and it's really repetitive. I mean, it's good. Some of it's really good stuff, but it gets really repetitive when you're supposed to get stoned and read a comic. You're not supposed to be sober and try to make it through a 300-page Freak Brothers book. Mm-hmm. I was reading it the wrong way. That's for sure. And I don't think I ever went back and tried to keep reading it. I was just like, okay, having enough Freak Brothers. I know what they're about now. But like I said, I liked this cover. It looks cool, so I picked it up. If I was a stoner, I'd probably like it even better.
Right.
Night Terrors. Dawn of DC Night Terrors Special Edition. I don't know why Night Terrors just made me crack up. But it just didn't seem very scary. Night Terrors. Those are bad dreams. You wake up and everything's fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the DC universe, Night Terrors might be something else.
You never know. But let's see. Who are We Are Legends introducing City Boy, Spirit World, and The Vigil. Okay.
None of those names sound lasting.
No.
Yeah, they never do, though.
Yeah.
And the designs. Can you show the cover again? Yeah. No. I don't care. I walk right past them.
Yeah, they're not for me. But that's okay, you know?
I don't think they're for anyone. Whoever's coming up with those ideas, man, this must be what the kids like today.
Yeah, I think they're...
Well, I mean, I can't fault anyone for creating new characters and wanting...
I'm perfectly okay with it, but I just know, you know, they're DC and Marvel aren't creating characters for me. But I'm okay with that. But I have to tell you, the amount of art students who are into drawing like anime and manga is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. There are no art students that I've had or that I've seen who are into drawing like any kind of standard comic book thing. But I would say if any art student I've had or seen other people have is into comic books at all, it's manga and anime. And they all draw like that. That's why this stuff is all drawn like manga and anime. That's all there is. There is nobody I have seen come through art school when I've been there, even as long as my friend Ed has been there, who draws like any traditional comic book artist I can think of. Every single one of them draws like manga. Matter of fact, I can still remember there was one. Ed used to teach at Montclair State College in New Jersey. And he used to like to have every year a comic book day. He was teaching the illustration courses there, and he was also teaching comic book courses. And I'd go in sometimes. Bob Wycheck would go in. Mike Martz went in once. Walter Simonson. People he knew. He'd have them come in for the day and talk to his students. And I can remember one student I was talking to, 20 years old, 19, 20 years old. But she was so frustrated with her. Because this was kind of after class when I was just doing one-on-ones, talking to whoever was still around, wanted to talk. And she was good, but she was like so frustrated with her drawing because she drew in this manga-ish style. but she had it down so well and was so good at it that that's the only way. Any drawing problem she had, that was the answer. And she was actually frustrated by it because she to her, like, that was drawing. There was she knew no other form of drawing but making it look like an anime character. And she was actually like at the end of her rope, which is unusual because do you remember the Dan Clowes comic Art School Confidential from 8 Ball?
I was aware of it, and I saw.
You may have seen a copy of it floating around the bullpen,
right?
But it's and they made a movie of it, which I rewatched. I mentioned months ago. But there's in Art School comic. It's only like a 5-page comic where Daniel Clowes blows the lid off of the scam that is the biggest scam of the 20th century. That is Art School, and he goes through a whole bunch of like archetypes of art students. There's this art student, there's that art student, there's this type of art student. And one of the types he does is the art student who his answer to every art problem is a barbarian painting. Obviously, sort of like a Frazetta fan who wants to be Frazetta. And that really was an archetype in the 80s. But that archetype, I think, has been replaced by, because I've had students like this, who their solution to every assignment and every art problem is to make an anime drawing. It's like no matter what you throw at them, they're making an anime drawing. And I think that's why we see that type of drawing in so many comics today. This stuff right here is because that's how a lot of kids are into and have learned to draw. And I think that's how they also, all the older people at the companies think will sell comics, because that's what kids are into. It really is true. Let's see. What do we have here? Hi, guys. I got a free books on Comic Book Day and got my pull. Yeah. There's not... Fish Flies was interesting, and I like the Sacrificers. I haven't read Fish Fly yet, and I haven't checked out the Sacrificers. Good evening, Comic Crack. A lifetime ago, when I went to film school for a year, they talked about what happened when Reservoir Dogs came out. Everyone came through the door wanted to be Tarantino. Yeah, that is for sure. There's a whole bunch of people in art schools who want to draw for manga, video games too, because video games use have been so influenced by manga and anime that most video game students also want to draw in that style.
When All the President's Men came out, everyone, journalism schools were now filled full of everybody wanting to be Woodward and Bernstein.
Yeah, that is for sure.
A lot of people ended up going to dog shows.
Let's see, what else did I get? Spawn, COVID Cop, the latest issue of Saga, where what did someone described this as we're now the bland, mundane period of Saga, which is kind of true because since it's come back, and for those who haven't read Saga, I'm going to give you a spoiler here. Though I think it was actually told at the beginning of Saga. This Saga is told from the point of view of this little girl, except she's a grown-up now in the future, telling you the story of her youth. And her mother and father were on the opposite sides of an intergalactic war. The Wings and the Horns. The Horns were this race of people who have horns. The Wings were this race of people who have wings. I forget what their actual names are. But her mother was, I can't even remember. Her mother is a wing, her father is a horn. So it was a big deal that they got together and had a child. And both empires are trying to hunt down the child to kill it. And that's Saga in a nutshell. Except when Saga went on right before Saga went on its big hiatus, they killed off their father character, which I think she actually told us in the beginning, now that I remember. But that was the big change in Saga, was the father character finally got killed off. Issue 55 or something, whatever it was. We're up to 64 now. So since then, first her mother was on this spaceship with this smuggler and rock group, and now they're just trying to lay low. So for the last few issues, she's been working at like the galactic equivalent of Amazon warehouse, trying to raise some money to get off this planet because they lost their own little spaceship. And so it's like for the last few issues, she's been just working at a warehouse where kids have been getting into trouble with their mother not watching them. And there's been this whole underlying plot of how desperate does a mother have to be to put her children to work to help out the family. So it's like there's this whole child labor sub theme going on. It's just like people are like, huh? But it's been I still enjoy Saga. It's not a book I've ever wanted to go back and reread, but it's still one I like a lot. What we got here? When I was going through archaeology school, everyone wanted to do forensics and couldn't wait to dig up all the bones because CSI's shows were all the rage. The rage. Saga 60. But I've also, whatever Fiona Staples has been doing these last few issues, I've been enjoying it. Good stuff. I'm trying to remember who this character is. Was this her mother or father? That might be her mother-in-law. There's so many characters in Saga. Sometimes one of them dramatically comes back, and I'm like, who is that? It's always one of those things with comics with big casts that someone in the cast hasn't shown up in 25 issues. I'm like, supposed to remember them? That was especially prevalent in the early in the aughts at Marvel and DC. There was something I call, I don't really know if it exists anymore because I haven't read a lot of stuff. There was something I called cool moment writing, which is best exemplified by the Ultimates. Like the Ultimates would be 4 pages of sort of mundane, whatever was going on in the story, and then 1 full page pinup of a guy showing up. And like the whole plot revolved around those cool moments. Sometimes, like at the end of the comic, Captain America would show up, and you'd be like, "Oh, Captain America's showing up! There's going to be a big fight." And then the next issue, there was like a 3-page fight, and then a bunch of mundane stuff, and then a cool moment. But it was like the whole plot revolved around making those cool moments cool. I don't know if that's done anymore, but and it was never my favorite form of writing. But when they made those cool moments cool, they were cool. Like inevitably, you'd get to the next issue and go, it wasn't that cool. Him showing up was cooler than the fight they had afterwards. Cool moment writing.
Yeah, I could see that, especially with Ultimates, that, there was a case of, here is something brand new, or there's a new cover to something old that you liked, and then, let's extreme it up a bit. And I think that's what the Ultimates were. We're basically going, here's what you've had, but not only here's something that you have, but we're going to repackage it, and it's going to be more extreme. And it worked for a while, with the Ultimates, until it didn't, because it got to the point where, I'm not sure who was reading it, because it wasn't really for new people. I think it was basically people was like, oh, I want to read the Avengers, but I want them to curse.
Yeah.
But,
I want them to be more realistic, as we put that in bunny ears.
Yeah, and realistic is having the whole kill Hulk hate Freddie Prinze Jr. That's realistic.
Who wants to do a read, rip, and tear?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Read, rip, and slab. Pardon me. What year should we go to? Let's see. How about some 1954?
Good.
Let me share my screen. Where's my 19? The year is 1954. We have got Uncanny Tales, number 28. November Marvel, Submariner 38, and Kid Cult Outlaw 45. What year did the code start? These are pre-code, right?
Yeah, these are pre-code.
I think those are pre-code. I don't remember the year the code itself came out.
55.
Yeah, I was like, it's right now. I was like, right near the border. I couldn't.
Yeah, February or March of 55.
Oh yeah, so this is November, so we're closing in on that border.
Yeah, just about there. These are all Marvels, right? Because I can't tell what the Uncanny.
All Marvels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Timelies, whatever they are.
Right.
They have the Atlas somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's an Atlas globe up in the upper left.
I mean, this is a complete tangent, but I don't think I've ever seen a comic book with the Timely logo on the cover.
Because it doesn't exist.
Reprints of what the logo was supposed to look like, but I never seen a comic book with the logo.
There was no Timely logo. They used the Marvel brand in two separate periods in 1947 and in 1948. And in 1949, the romance magazines had the brand A Lover's Magazine.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I always saw like would be like a this is what the logo would have looked like, and it's like, wait, doesn't anyone have a copy of the logo? I would want to read Uncanny Tales because I've never seen that before. I don't even remember if I ever heard of the title.
All new, brand new tales.
Brand new Uncanny Tales, number 28.
Uncanny Tales is one of the multiple weird science anthologies that they had with no permanent characters. And you know how Goodman would do. He would launch a dozen of them, cancel half of them by issue number 2, keep going, then cancel one, launch another one. And Uncanny Tales lasted for a while, but it didn't resist the Atlas implosion.
I would slab Submariner, and I would rip up Kid Cult. Westerns did nothing for me.
Oh, I like Marvel Westerns.
I thought they were neat, but yeah, they were a product of their time, but I could have cared less for them.
I think Tit Goblin agrees with you. Read Uncanny, slab Sub, and rip Kid Cult. Replace every cowboy with dolphins. I hate cowboys. I hate westerns.
I don't
Dolphin
hate
Cult Outlaw.
I don't hate it. I read a few of them. But I kind of felt like I read the same book over and over again when it came to the cowboys.
In the 70s, I used to not that I ever saw any on the stands, but whenever I saw them around sort of the neighborhood as back issues from other kids, I'd like to pick up and read the Marvel Western stuff. Because for me in the 70s, it was like something from another era, even more than the superheroes were. Because, as a kid in the 70s, I knew about all the superheroes that existed. I knew all the superheroes existed in the 60s and could even get reprints of them. But that Western stuff was like, whoa, they used to make Western comics? How crazy is that? So I enjoyed getting the I would get being there was from it was the late 70s, and I could find like the early 70s Marvel Westerns.
They only they had four. They had 4 titles. One was an anthology. They kept Two Gun Kid,
right?
Kid Cult Outlaw, and Rawhide going, They also had
Mighty
a
Marvel Western.
Mighty Marvel
Was the other
Western.
one?
They had
Right.
Western Gunfighters lasted for a while, and they tried bringing back Ringo Kid for a while.
Oh yeah.
So you'll notice that the Western heroes that show up in the Avengers are the ones that were being reprinted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool when they showed up in the Avengers.
I knew about them because they appeared in the superhero books. So for me, when I did see them, it's like, okay, I'll read it. But it was like I did not go searching for them. But it's like
I said, when I was a kid in the late 70s, though I couldn't find them on the newsstands, I don't think there was any still being printed. I could still find them like in the neighborhood from kids who were a few years older selling their comic books. So I could find like early 70s issues of the Marvel Westerns. That's what I read when I could get them.
Kid Cold lasted until 79 on reprints alone.
Yeah, they weren't on my newsstand though. Or if they were, I paid no attention to them because I've been spending my money on the superhero books. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, there's a few Chaikin covers there.
And I would put the Dolphin. I'm flipping back and forth. Should the Dolphin be the hiding guy in the yellow hat that's getting ready to ambush them, or be the big red head? So it's like a back and forth. Where should the Dolphin be? But I think maybe I'll put the Dolphin with the guy in the yellow hat because we don't usually have the Dolphin being the bad guy who's going to ambush them.
I'm going to slab on Canny Tails. I'm going to slab on Canny Tails, read Kid Colt, and rip Submariner because that's the most generic one.
I think I'm going to slab Submariner because I kind of like that cover.
It's a good cover.
I wonder who did it. Who was doing Submariner around that time?
Bill Everett.
He was still there?
But I'm not sure. He had come... Yeah, he was on and off. He was doing a lot of stuff outside. When they brought back the superheroes, Everett was also doing a lot of stuff in the weird science anthologies.
Why does Sid Shores come to mind? Did he ever? I don't know why. Looking at that,
I'm
did he ever do
Submariner? No. Maybe in the 40s. After Everett was off at World War II, Sid Shores was. I don't think he was working for Marvel in 1954.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know why his name came to my mind. Just looking at that cover, did.
It did stuff, including westerns, but I don't think he was there in 1954.
I think I'm going to slab Submariner, read Kid Colt, and tear up Uncanny Tales. Ooh, I like that Uncanny Tales.
And I'm going to Dolphin the woman in Uncanny Tales.
You know what? I was thinking the same thing. I think we're on the same page there. I want the Dolphin bursting through that hole in the back. Because replacing Submariner with the Dolphin would be too apropos. Too on the nose.
Yeah.
No, people might not know that there was not supposed to be a dolphin there. They're like, oh yeah,
that would be his sidekick Dolphin.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Dolphin wrecking that ship and diving into the water. All brand new Submariner adventures. The maze? I was just trying to figure out what's going on in that Uncanny Tales. Oh, there's more entrances. I didn't notice there was a little guy down by his foot.
Yeah.
There are 4 stories. They had 4 stories, those comics.
And they all the trade dress with it's the all brand new tales and then the all brand new. Every one of them is all brand new.
Gus wants to make the cave of the comic. The dolphin, pardon me. The one getting of the dolphin's dorsal hole. So the whole cave in the background is a dolphin. But it's like, is this supposed to be a scary maze that leads everyone to this giant red head?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a very sensical cover. It's more of a nonsensical cover. The other ones seem to make sense. Dun dun dun, 1954. Oh, another thing I got this week is The Ambassadors. This one's been coming out every 2 weeks. Different artist every issue. We got Mark Miller writing in Olivier Coipel. I don't know if I said that right.
Yes.
On art. Okay, good. It was okay. This whole series has been just okay. I've been getting it because I like the different artists each issue because he's got oh look, Chris Russo's here. Maybe he's got a white screen so far. There he is.
Yeah, but that's Mark Miller comic, right?
Mark Miller comic, but the story has been bland. A woman in Korea, some super scientist businesswoman, figures out how to give people superpowers, much to the dismay of her rival ex-husband. And she has a contest that she'll give 6 people superpowers, and the 6 most worthy people in the world. And whatever thoughts came into your head right now about what this story would be about is what this story is about. There doesn't seem to be a lot of deep thinking in it. It's just kind of like, okay, here's some. And you know what's weird about it too? It's like she figures that it's sort of like, a Silver Age DC comic, in that she figures out how to give people superpowers, but there's like built-in limitations that make no sense to me, in terms of she's got 50 superpowers in this big computer somewhere, and the 6 people, well, we've only got 4 of them so far, can download 3 of those superpowers at any one time. And if someone else is using the superpower, you can't. And I'm like, why? There's no real explanation for it. It's like, that's just what we did.
Someone's reading Dial H for Hero.
Yes.
And decided to play around with it, and then put
it's so comic. It's so Silver Age comic booky.
And a smidgen of Shazam.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. Is basically, here's a TV show idea with superhero and powers, but we don't know if we're going to have the budget for everything. So here's the limitations we're going to put on them.
Yeah.
And it's going to be.
You're right. That could be.
That sounds very Silver Age.
Yeah, the Thunder Agents. I've only got an hour's worth of super strength on my belt.
Uh-huh.
Didn't they all have built-in? Oh, and like the super speed guy was dying. If he used his powers, it took away his life. So I was like, if he uses for every like minute he used his super speed, he lost an hour of his life or something crazy. I forget what the formula was, but I was like, geez, that's pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
So he spent most of his time.
That's the way the Silver Age was, Jared.
Right. How dark is that for the Silver Age?
It was edgy because the characters could burn out and get killed. We need something to end the season with.
What are you working on tonight, Chris? Some more inking?
Yeah.
Of Officer Clausen?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Read any good comic books lately?
Just not.
No.
Yep.
I'll think of something.
Let's think of something. Have you been to the comic shop lately? Wilson is going to the comic shop every week now.
And one of these days, I'm going to actually read the books.
Yeah, he promises. But he's at least getting out of the house.
Just remember that I also picked up King Kong, The Great War. This is being published by... Dynamite Entertainment.
Reed Paolo, Dolphin Chris, Slab Wilson, and Rip Jarrett's new Spawn issue. Poor Spawn.
Yeah, you might as well rip one of those issues of Clone. You have so many.
What was that comic again, Wilson? I got distracted by the.
It's King Kong.
King Kong.
And it's based. I was looking on the interiors, and it's based on a book. So they're
the Great War.
So instead of making
who publishes it, who does it?
Dynamite Entertainment.
Okay.
So editor is Matt Idelson, from our Marvel days, and it's based on a book, King Kong of Skull Island, created by Joe DeVito, which I think he also wrote one of the movies. I'm not positive.
You know what's strange? Like the strongest Matt Idelson memory I have are of his jokes falling flat. He was a nice guy. But sometimes, we'd all be goofing around in the bullpen or whatever, and he'd make a joke and it would just fall. He had like more jokes fall flat than anyone. Now he's like, "Ooh, that one's rough. Ooh, that one's rough."
The interior like comic.
I should remember more about him than that. Oh, nice. Yeah, let's see that dragon up close. Let me put you solo.
When did he move to DC? 98?
Yeah, I think.
Around 98.
It was a long. I remember he was at DC. I think longer than Marvel even.
I think so.
He was. I remember he was like the assistant.
I believe.
He was the assistant editor on the Mark Waid. Who was it? Captain America with Ron Garney. I remember him being there for that. I think was Tom Brevoort the editor on that. Was Matt Tom's assistant?
No, Matt was. I'm trying to remember which office Matt was in. Brevoort had.
Was Siegel there by then?
Siegel was around. Or Siegel was in the office.
Mm-hmm. That's a great King Kong cover. Killer cover. What do the interiors look like? He showed us. Greetings, comic fiends from Sleepy Reader. Good evening, ghouls and fiends.
Because Brevoort became Avengers line editor after when Heroes Return started.
Okay.
I guess Idelson must have. Did Idelson quit for money because he got a higher offer? Or
I don't remember. There were so many people coming and going in those days. I can't remember all the reasons. There was three mass firings.
Yeah. Was Ralph Macchio still there before when Onslaught was? Yeah.
Ralph Macchio only retired 5 years ago or something. He was one of the survivors. Mm-hmm. Another comic I got this week, Junkyard Joe, 6th and final issue. This was a good series, I have to say. This was much better than Geiger. If Geiger was a B, this was an A. And Gary Frank's artwork in this was terrific. This is the best Gary Frank artwork I've seen. He actually gets expressions and emotions out of his characters in this, which I don't think he did much of. A lot of Gary Frank's drawings were sort of static, and his character is a little frozen. And this one, they're very emotional. I got to say, I really liked it. I thought he did a terrific job. Junkyard Joe, one of the unnamed. What is this here? The unnamed something. I can't read the bottom word. It's too small. I'm going to look at Jeff Johns' version of unnamed. No, just the unnamed there are. Throughout history, unlikely and strange heroes have risen and fallen. These men and women are a mystery, their identities and lives a secret. But for a great evil to be stopped, their stories must be told. from a radioactive family man in the near future to a British assassin during the American Revolution to a robotic killing machine seeking its creator, and more. They are the unnamed fighting the unknown war. And there's the little chart of them, and we are Junkyard Joe comes online, 1972. We're right there. And we also got Geiger Walks Across America, 2050. We got that series. So, and at the and the Blizzard was the story the Blizzard was the story in the Image anthology by Jeff Johns and Andrea Muti that it turns out was a Tales of the Unnamed. At the very end of the story, on the last page, we got a look at, I think it was the Redcoat from 1776, becomes immortal, all the way at the beginning. So we got to look at him at the whole time. You didn't know the Blizzard was tied into to the Unnamed in any way until that last page. But as I said before, that Image anthology let me down. Just wasn't that good.
What about issue 2 for 3 pages?
Yes. The best stuff in it was Chris Giarrusso, Dean Haskell.
Come on. Hey, you didn't have to say that.
Few other things. Yeah, but it's true. That's what it's like. I wish you had done the centerfold in front of Scotty Young, not to throw you in the Scotty Young bucket as always. But it was like there was Scotty Young had like 2 pages every issue, sort of the centerfold, but there was no centerfold in it. And like half of them were about what is he going to do to fill up these 2 pages. I was like, come on, you got to work harder than that. I expect more from him. Like I said, I think he's a good writer. I like that comic I got of his.
I never understood why people go gaga over Scotty Young's art.
People just like the little cartoony kids Marvel characters.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I love reading Chris's stuff on the Bulletins page. So when compared to what Scotty Young was doing, a lot more personality in those characters. Scotty Young looks like he wanted to be a tattoo artist.
Oh, thanks.
And if anybody ever told you that you were just drawing the Peanuts, no, you weren't. Inspired by this mean clone of.
Well, thank you.
I do miss. I do miss Peanuts.
Peanuts. It was Chris Giarrusso who made Hawkeye popular.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Nobody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because of you.
There was, I knew one person who was a Hawkeye fan, and that was it. Then all of a sudden, everybody liked Hawkeye.
Yeah. And the one person was always like a contrarian too. That's why when I saw Chris start featuring Hawkeye, I was like, he must be the contrarian in the room. But now he turned out he really liked Hawkeye. Scotty Young's covers look cool, but the shtick can grow stale. Yeah, I think that's what happens to a lot of people who they kind of do gimmick, like, little kid or whatever their gimmick. Who's that guy who does action figure covers? I gotta imagine he's done all of them he can do, and he's at the end of his act. Did someone say Peanuts? Yes. Peanuts Paolo said that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those of you who weren't reading Peanuts at the end, Rerun being a basement cartoonist to me was a return to the glory years of Peanuts. Because I of course grew up like many kids in the 70s reading Peanuts and reading the Peanuts pocketbooks. But by the by the late 80s, I probably stopped reading it that often and didn't think it was as good as it used to be. But in the 90s, I started reading it again and what kept me reading it was Rerun is the little brother of Linus and Lucy. And he had this ongoing gag with Rerun wanting to be a basement cartoonist, which was his idea of an underground cartoonist. So here was Charles Schulz in his, last years doing underground comics jokes in his Peanut strip. It was like, whoa. Good stuff. Some of my favorite, matter of fact, I think I have a book called Peanuts 2000, which reprints the stuff that was in. So if you're looking for it, it's in Peanuts 2000, which may have been the last Peanuts book to come out before Sparky died. Anybody else reading Peanuts in the 90s?
No,
I was.
I was not.
Do you remember Rerun, Chris?
Oh yeah. He stole. It was basically his strip by the end of it.
Yeah.
He was the showstopper.
I liked him. I was good with.
in the 90s, I read a few Zits. Maybe a couple of Sherman's Lagoons. Yeah, but I wasn't reading much in the way of newspaper strips. Maybe Rip Kirby reprints.
Comic Craft. That's when you found what?
That's when I found Johnny Hazard, which was Frank Robinson's. Yeah. Right. I only read Johnny Hazard stories in the 90s.
Ah.
And that's how I thought, oh, Frank Robbins can draw. Who knew? No, but it was very good. It was very exciting. In some cases, probably more than the Phantom, and I've always loved the Phantom. But yeah. Johnny Hazard was a very good read.
Good stuff. And I also got the latest issue of Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. What are we up to here? We're up to issue 10? Issue 12. They've done a good job with this, I have to say. I've enjoyed it. This issue, the story has been Death Dealer had to go to hell to rescue this child, and he found out his brother, who hates him, was still alive in hell. And now he's out with an army to try to steal the child back. So Death Dealer was stuck in this castle, that was, a whole town with this castle that his brother and this army of zombies were going to attack in order to kill him and get the castle. Then this other army who wanted to kill Death Dealer showed up, and there's lots of people wanting to kill Death Dealer in this issue, and they're going to kill a lot of people to get to him. So it's been a good book, I got to say. I'm surprised at how much I've been enjoying this Frazetta-verse, because I've never been that big a Frank Frazetta fan, nor that big a licensed comic fan. But they've been doing a nice job. I've been enjoying this. And what's the other one? Dawn Attack. And I think they're coming out with a third one. What's its name? But I didn't. Well, they already came out with the third one, but it's the anthology that's coming out quarterly. Let me look in that Free Comic Book Day one. I didn't put it on my pull list because I was like, I can't buy another $5 Frazetta comic. I just can't. But if they got the first issue, I'll give it a look. Let's see. Oh, The Norseman. I think that's the new one. Mitch Iverson, art by Richard Pace. There's some Richard Pace art. Now I'm looking at the art going, maybe I could have ordered that. Here, let's. Mm-hmm. There's that Death Dealer shot. Some decent artwork. Oh, we lost Chris. Oh, another Frank Frazetta's Mothman. Maybe that's the one that's coming out next. Pencils by Andrea Muti. So I guess they're doing a Mothman book, and I didn't know the Frank Frazetta. Oh, that's right. Frank Frazetta did do a Mothman painting. For those of you who don't know, Mothman is one of those, Bigfoot type monsters in New Jersey or somewhere. Maybe it's Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's a cryptid.
Whoops. Exit solo layout. There we go. Oh yeah,
Mothman.
there's the Frazetta Mothman painting on the cover.
So somebody once saw a hobo with a blanket going down the street in a snowstorm. There, Mothman.
Someone once saw an owl in a rainstorm and thought it was Mothman. Though, have you seen the Richard Gere Mothman movie?
Yeah, if it's the one that I think it is, yes. And that was the first and only movie I ever wanted to walk out of because it creeped me out so much.
It was actually pretty creepy. I'm not going to tell you it was a great movie, but I remember enjoying it, and it was pretty creepy the way they did it.
Because it was so creepy, I was uneasy watching it, and it was the first time I ever wanted to get up and leave. And my friend was like, "Are you serious?" Like, yeah, this is creeping me out. This is really bothering me. But I guess if that was what the movie was supposed to do,
that was what it was going for. Really, it was a creepiness factor, and it really did.
Really creepy.
And that's where I first made the observation that if you're doing any type of horror movie, and there's any type of you have to have, if there's any type of drawings in it, they have to be charcoal drawings.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of whoever was going crazy drawing the Mothman in this dark, rich. And I've noticed that happen in more horror movies since then. I'm like, you can't do a pencil drawing. You can't make a colored painting. It's got to be a charcoal drawing. Because charcoal can be sort of nice and amorphous. And it's dark and black. And what was that one? There was some movie on Netflix that everybody said was copying some other movie with maybe Sandra Bullock in it, where you couldn't make a noise or move or something.
Bird Box.
Bird Box. That was it.
I've never seen
another horror movie with charcoal drawings in it. And I was like, man, if you're doing a horror movie, you got to get a kid or some sort of person who knows making charcoal drawing. Charcoal drawings are scary and creepy in horror movies.
Yes. I think there's something primal about it because of cave drawings. There's something something there, and it's like I never made that connection.
Charcoal is dark and black, comes from fire. And you don't make delicate little drawings with it. You rub it on the paper like that and make big, dark, black marks. I was like, whoa. It actually got me. I think that's one of the things that started me making my monster faces out of busted brush and black ink. And I've made some charcoal ones, too, over the years. If I want to draw scary monsters, it's got to be in charcoal.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Let's see what some of these comments are. Schultz's shaky line in late era Peanuts was a little depressing to see. It was. No doubt about that. Yeah.
It would have it kind of had a cycle.
I think it got less shaky late. Because I can remember, I think in the early 90s, it may have been shakier than the late 90s. When your name is Death Dealer, it's surprising that people want to kill you. Yeah, you'd think the name would scare them away, but no. I invented pecans. Chester Black is the character, and he says, "Oh my," a lot. It's the big squash monster, Chester Black. We'll be the totally original movie someday, like nothing else. There you go.
Yeah, and when the doctor is in, it's Lena, and she has a little brother called Lucius.
Yeah. Yeah, they also have to add an ad for Frank Frazetta's Tales of Science Fantasy. Yeah, I got the first issue of that is already out, and I got it, and it was solidly okay. That one I actually put on my pull list sight unseen just because it was a quarterly book. And I was like, quarterly? That means it's never coming out. I may as well put it on my list. The next one is 3 months from now? 3 months from now is never going to come. That's like not even promising to buy a book. Mothman wastes all his money buying new clothes, only to get torn up by those wings. But they make a good meal behind the comics. The Quiet Place. Yeah, I think it may have been The Quiet Place that they said that Bird Box was ripping off. I tried watching The Quiet Place, and I couldn't do it. 10 minutes of watching people try to be quiet made me go, I can't take this.
I found it such an odd concept that I sat through the whole thing, and I enjoyed it.
Like I just can't watch people try to be quiet. I couldn't do it.
You know,
there's got to be better things to use my time.
Who watches monster movies a lot of times these people end up getting killed because they were making too much noise. That's why I found this a unique thing on its own. The fact that it spawned a couple of sequels, which was entertaining of its own.
Yeah,
it's like, you gotta still keep quiet.
Gotta still keep quiet.
Hey, in the first movie, can you hear me? My phone keeps going out.
We can hear you. You're not moving, but we can hear you.
You're not moving, though. It's a great trick.
Now we can't hear you. Since you said we can. What? Are you there still?
Yeah, I'm here. But my phone keeps kicking out. I'm going to restart and come back.
Stupid phone. Let's see. What else did I get? Oh, the last one I got was a comic. I guess there hasn't been one in a little while because I forgot about it. Old Dog #4. I got this one because it's a Declan Shalvey comic. I generally like his art. And this is an old spy comes out of retirement.
Okay.
And you know what's funny about this one? So far, it's been not a superhero comic at all. It's been an old spy comes out of retirement story, which we've read a lot of. But in this issue, he's like on this giant satellite dish or something, fighting these villainous spies, and he's outrunning gunfire. And the guys are like, he's too take him out. He's too fast. I'm like, how can an old spy be too fast? I'm like, what kind of ridiculous? Because you know how they always have in movies, they have people like running from automatic weapon fire, and the automatic weapon fire is always behind them. And you're like, what is with these people shooting? Just shoot in front of them, and they'll run into the. It's like you can't outrun gunfire in real life. And I was like, what? And I was like, what is that? That is so weird that they did that trope in this old spy book. Then it goes on to be the regular story about an old spy, some guy he trained comes back and kicks his ass. Then at the end, it's like, well, you know what you are. And it seems we get some shots where he's got a mechanical arm. So he might be some sort of robot or android or something. And we haven't known it, and I don't think he's known it. So I'm like, oh, there's a weird twist. He really was too fast in outrunning the gunfire because he's not human.
Probably
so that was a strange little twist at the end of this story that they, that he kind of, told us about in him outrunning gunfire trope. Because you especially never hear in a comic, like a spy comic, get him, he's too fast. I was like, what? He's too fast. That like really struck me as strange, but I thought he was just using that as a trope. But no, he was giving us a little foreshadowing that this guy really was too fast because he's a robot android thing. What is it? Your busted brush monsters has always reminded me of the art style of the teen girlfriend with the tail it has in the black hole. Oh, I've never seen the black hole. I'll have to look at that one. Black. Yeah, the Disney's though. I just always stayed away from Disney everything, so I've never seen the Black Hole.
I saw it years ago. I never really revisited it. To me, it was basically Disney's attempt to do Star Wars. So I never bothered with it because I figured, it's just, because they had the cute robots and they had the evil robot that looked like Vader, Maximilian. And to me, it just like the little bit that I remember of it seems like it's like it falls under the trope of that old movies did, where it's just long to be long, where it was, you watch the character just walk into the room and sit down and nothing actually happens. And 10 minutes go by. And I realized that, did the newer movies spoil it for me where you can't really sit down and enjoy an old movie because it's like, there's nothing happening. And it's getting boring. And I think Black Hole falls into that, where it's like, just even mentioning the name, it's like, I think even the logo appearing took way too long.
That reminds me of, I think I've talked about this on the show, maybe before Wilson was even here. It's been a while. The Simpsons, I don't know, 5 years ago now, spent a whole episode parodying the George Papard show, Banachek, from the early 70s. Okay? They spent, what wasn't just a Banachek, they did a whole episode parodying Banachek, which cracked me up just that it existed because I'm a Banachek fan, actually. But it's like, hardly anyone remembers the show even exists, let alone someone doing a parody of it 30 years later or however long it was. And it was that same thing. In the opening scene, they have their Banachek character, just like they did in those TV, like you said, the scenes that were all long. You see, there's like a still shot. It's like you see his car pull up. You see him park his car. You see his car door open. You see him walk across the street. You see him walk up some sets of stairs. You see him go into his apartment. And then the scene cuts to his apartment. It's like they had to show that whole scene of him arriving and going, just like you said, the 70s when all those scenes were just long.
Yeah. And it's funny watching older movies, even cop movies. Not too long ago, I watched Coffee. And it was amazing in the sense of watching cops have to pull up to like a phone booth to call in to say where they're going. So at least there's a record of where they're going to be. So they're not even using the radio to keep in communication. And it's amazing to watch how the world worked before cell phones.
Yeah.
And just seeing those things where it's like, it's a novelty also to see how different things are. Sometimes some movies are ageless and you don't notice it. And then other times it's like, that is wild.
It's funny. I just noticed in my Facebook memories section today, a post I made about I think it was 2011, about having rewatched Clerks for the first time in I don't know how long. And saying something about, wow, it came out in 1994. What a completely different age 1994 was. There were video stores. There was newspapers everywhere. No cell phones. It was like a completely different, no social media. It seemed like watching a movie from a completely different time and place, which it was, But I was like, wow, that doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but so much has changed since 1994 when Clerks came out.
The second Jay and Silent Bob movie is all motivated by the internet. They're talking shit about us on the internet. What's the internet? We got to go to their houses and kick their asses.
Did you watch Clerks 3? The latest one?
Yeah.
Really good. I enjoyed that one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
More emotional than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not think it was going to hit me that way. You're watching these people that you, in a way, knew
Right.
was
It's
there at
really
the
emotional for
time.
aging Gen Xers, right?
Yeah. But being right there was like remembering when he first came out with the movie. Remember hanging out with Kevin because there's a comic book connection there,
Right.
and seeing people that you may have never haven't seen since the second movie and stuff like that, where it's like it's wild. It's wild to see yourself there. That's the weird thing about it.
Clerks 3 is very much about time passing in life.
Yes.
If I were to say if there was a main, it was funny, it was good, but there was a main theme to it. It's about how time passes in life. Things don't stay still.
Right.
So it was really good, very emotional too. Let's see, what is Charles Burns' Black Hole?
So not
that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about a completely different movie.
Reminds a fan, a Star Wars movie where the first thing Darth Vader does is to correct a sight problem to the Imperial clones. Next scene, in a few seconds, Luke Leanne and all the gang lie dead. A fan-made Star Wars movie. Fix their shooting, and everything. They all died. I wish I noted what comic it was that I read. They had one of the greatest Star Wars lines ever, where it said something like, "We're all the heroes in our own story. We all think we're Han Solo, but we're really just a stormtrooper who can't shoot straight." Which was explaining why the hero of the story couldn't shoot. Couldn't shoot this person down because they're just a person. They couldn't shoot straight. But I liked that line. We're not Han Solo. We're the stormtroopers. Not being able, we're the cannon fodder who can't shoot straight. You try shooting Han Solo.
I remember that there was
you can't because Han shot first.
I mean, it was like someone made a meme or a comic strip where they showed somebody on top of a car shooting at the zombie herd. And the caption was basically, "You all think you're this guy, when you're all probably this guy that was pointing to one of the generic zombies."
Right. Zombie. Now here's another one. The last comic I think I got this week, Nocterra, issue 14. Some good art in this one.
Nice.
Tony S. Daniel really got to stretch when he finally gets to draw some fantastic stuff. All these creatures made out of light and ghosts and things. But we finally got some answers to what's going on in this series. But it's still only a B for me. It's maybe even fall into a B-. It's not terrible or anything. It just hasn't really grabbed me. I liked kind of the middle of it. This kind of second story, the second arc of it, or season 2, whenever it started after issue 10 or 12, it's just been okay, not terrific. And there's some he's got this. What do you call the trope when it's like the wisdom? It's like the wisdom of children trope kind of thing going on. Where one of the characters in it is this. I don't know how old he's supposed to be. 14. Oh, here he is 13 years ago. Is he in his early 20s now? I don't even know, but he's a little kid in here trying to find his mother when he was abandoned, and he's got just too much wisdom for an 18-year-old. And he's kind of the narrator in a lot of this, and he gives you like the wisdom parts. And I'm like, I don't know. He just seems too young to be the wisdom character. Which is a trope when it's like, the whole the children know best because of their innocence or something like that. Not that he's an innocent, but it's like those are, I can ignore. And the second time I read this through, I'm going to ignore all his captions. I'm just not, which is what I do sometimes on these books that I like the art, but I don't like the writing as much. I skip all the captions, and I like the writing better. Because often, the dialogue can carry the story pretty well. The dialogue and the art. It's like I don't need all those captions where the writer is waxing poetic about some silly thing.
I don't think I've ever seen that book.
Jared hates children. I like my children to be childlike.
Not wise beyond their years.
Wise beyond their years. Something fell down over there. No wonder what that noise was. Just a piece of paper, though. To recap the early part of our show, don't bother buying Soho chisel tip brushes. They're crap. Even for $1 for 3, they're not worth it.
How did the that eraser turn out? Then the cleaner. Did you get that?
You know what? It turns out I didn't order it.
Really?
I thought I ordered it, but I went. It wasn't in the haul, and I checked my receipt, and it wasn't on my receipt. I'm like, I could have sworn I added it on.
Oh, okay.
But I did add on. I've always wanted to try one of these, an electric eraser, where you press this little button and the eraser spins really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Some inkers would use this to do effects too. They'd use like a rough pen or ink eraser and go over their ink if they wanted to do effects. But it's just never made it onto my list. This was like $12. You can get them from anywhere from like $12 to $70, depending on the type you get. But I always kind of wanted to try one. And finally ordered one, but I could have sworn I ordered that little desktop vacuum, but I didn't. I was a little disappointed when it wasn't in there.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was curious if you got it. I wanted to make sure I asked about it. But the electric eraser, I had gotten one. I think I paid $10 for it. And what was hard to find was like the eraser portion of it. To refill those.
I ordered a whole pack of refills to go along with it, just in case. It
was fun, but it kind of lost its novelty after a while. And I did like, just because it was just such a fine point that you could go in and get little things and try to do little effects with it. So that was fun with it.
Next time I order from jetpens.com, I'm going to get some refills for this little eraser. Because I have liked this one. Remember, I bought this teeny tiny one a few weeks ago. And it does a pretty good job of erasing like right up to a line in a little tiny area. I have to say, that one's a win.
Very cool.
We'll have to see about the electric eraser. It better be good because I got so many refills for it. I don't use them. It'll be a shame. Maybe I'll let the kids who come over from next door and like to make art use them somewhere.
There you go.
I get some new neighbors with how old is she? 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, an 8-year-old, and 12-year-old. Sometimes they like to come over and make art, so I give them supplies.
Right.
And the middle child is a real artist, so she likes it the most.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Really liked the kneaded eraser that you can shape. I gave her one of these. She's like, "Can I have one of those?" I was like, "Sure." I got a bunch of them, and Because this is probably the kneaded eraser is probably the one I use the most.
Yeah,
That's my most used eraser.
the first time I remember clearly getting a kneaded eraser because it was an art kit. So it came with a couple of pencils, a sharpener, a kneaded eraser. It was a whole thing. But when I was reading the list of items, it was like a little art book, 4 different types of pencils with the different lead weights, sharpener, and then it said eraser. He's like, there's no eraser in here. I'm looking for a pink eraser. I've never heard of a eraser. It's like there's this thing that looks like gum, but I don't know what that is.
You can't erase. The tricky thing is there is actually an eraser called a gum eraser. Where is it? I got one here. Which is that big, chunky, blocky, tan one that crumbles really easily.
Right. So it wasn't going to be before I knew what that was.
Right. It's like, this should be called the gum eraser.
Yeah. And so it was like, I don't know what this thing that's packed up. I think at that time, because they were either gray or green. And I remember opening it up. It's like, what is this? Not knowing that was the eraser. It's pretty funny.
Why are there so many songs about rainbow erasers?
There you go.
Why are there so many songs of erasers?
Wilson was just pointing out to us that when that song came out, he only knew of one other song about rainbows. He's like, where are all these songs about rainbows he's talking about?
Yep. Just that and the Wizard of Oz. That was it.
Then I mentioned that he needed to do acid and be European. there would be another rainbow song.
I can't remember if I got my first kneaded eraser in drawing class or when I first went away to college, to art school. That summer, they sent us a list of supplies you needed. So I dutifully went out to the local art store, Koenig's Art Supplies in the Nanuet Mall, bought everything that was on the list, which was a couple of $100, which was a lot of money for an 18-year-old. Got there the first day. It turns out I was the only one who did that. Every other student had like nothing with them. And then the teacher went through and said, let me see this list. You don't need that. You don't need that. That's 409. You don't need that. You don't need that. Soap is like airbrush cleaner, soap and water. And I was just like, there I was with my $9 bottle of airbrush cleaner going.
The one thing I hated buying for class was the Electroset rub fonts.
Press type?
Press type. Oh, because they were expensive as all hell. And I only knew one place that sold them, and it was an art store across the street from Art and Design, where everything in that store was overpriced because it was across the street from the art and design school.
Right.
And
for those of you who don't know what press type is, before the age of desktop publishing, if you were a designer and wanted to make some fancy lettering, you got this stuff that's called press type that was on like a sheet of acetate. And like the press type was like a decal sticker or whatever. You'd get one of these. Hold on. Dun, dun, dun. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, this says Koenig on it from the Koenig Art Emporium. And you would have to rub this on the back side of the press, and it would put the letter on. So if you wanted to make like a headline that said Ramos Comics, you have to find the R, you have to line it up, you have to rub it, and this other side is a little ball for the smaller letters. So you have to rub down R for Ramos, find the A, rub down the A, rub down the M, and you'd have fancy what now would be like computer lettering. That's how, because it was mechanical lettering like on a computer, except it was on
right.
And inevitably you'd run out of certain and even they tried to put more E's on than X's, but inevitably you would use up half your sheet of press type and have to get a new sheet because you've run out of certain letters.
And then you would just have various sheets of press type.
Yes, with various letters on it.
Because it was.
You'd have to go. You'd have to go, I need a Helvetica L. Let me see, is there one here? And all the type was different point sizes. So you'd need a Helvetica 8-point L, and you'd go, which one? No, out of L's on here. No, that's Americana. No, that's Hobo. Where's Helvetica? Helvetica. I've got 10-point L's, but no 8-point L. You'd be like, and it was... How much was it a sheet? $10 a sheet? It was not cheap.
Something like that. Some outrageous price. And then you would have to go, okay, I could take this I and I could maybe take this K and kind of make it L and fudge it a bit. Oh.
If I rub down just this one stem from the K, it can be an L. Oh no, I rubbed down too much of it. I got to scrape it off. Oh no, I scraped too much off. Let me see if I can go in there with a pen and make that
pen and try to get it was just all for school. So it wasn't like even getting printed or anything like that. It was just
this was learning how to do this stuff.
Learning how, let me teach you frustration. That it's like I was just still glad that when I learned paste up mechanicals, I was still able to use that in the art field. Right before I switched to computers. So it's like I could still make a paste up mechanical. And then learn how in school they teach you to keep this whole thing so clean. And then you see what paste up mechanicals look like in the field, and you're like, they made us practically wear gloves to make these things.
And no one else did.
Everyone's eating sandwiches over the artwork. So it's like it was insane what they taught you, but at the same time, the use and the practicality was amazing itself.
And the thing was too, even when you were a student, you wanted to use the press type.
Yes.
Because it looked, your other choice was to hand draw the lettering, and you couldn't hand draw the lettering. There was like one student out of 20 who was into calligraphy and could hand draw lettering. The rest of us were like, I have to what? I better get that expensive press type, otherwise it won't look professional. I can remember one time when I was a freshman doing a project, and the project was we had to take a country and take like the first letter from the country and kind of make a logo for it. All by hand, of course. This wasn't, something... I think I picked Austria. But one of the things they always told you, too, which you didn't believe when you were a freshman, is it didn't matter how the black looked on the page. When they photographed it and printed it, it was all going to be black. But when you were doing it as a student, you wanted the black to look good. You didn't want, like, if you filled it in with a brush and some ink, you didn't want any, like, variation of the black, even though it didn't matter, because when they make a stat of it or whatever, that's all filling into black. Mm-hmm. So it didn't matter, but, me as an 18-year-old student didn't understand that at all. So I just wanted to look good. So I can remember I spent an entire evening, because I had a black background. Instead of filling it in with a brush, and maybe some of the brush work would be uneven because I didn't know what I was doing with the brush. It was like a 9x12 sheet of paper, which was probably 75% black. I filled the whole thing in with a technical pen. Just a little 1-point technical pen, just because it was the flattest black I could draw in there. It took me probably 3 hours to fill in that background. Had to refill the pen many times because the ink reservoir is only that big. Just sitting there going, in the end, it looked good. I was like, but now I know, boy, I wasted a lot of time filling in that black.
My college art teacher yelled at me for doing that. filling up the space with a pen. It's like, what are you doing? Just get a brush. It would be a lot quicker. It's like, okay. Sometimes you don't know until someone tells you.
But it wasn't even, too. When
Yeah.
I did it, my art teacher tried to tell me that. He was just like, "Yeah, whatever. You want to waste your time? You go right ahead." I mean, it did make for a better art piece looking at the original art. It just didn't matter because it was supposed to be something for print.
Right.
Let's see. Tit Goblin, I enjoyed your art haul. Buying art supplies is one of my favorite things to do. It is. I like making those art supply hauls. I wish I had. I pretty much don't need more art supplies. Matter of fact, like I bought 18 of these Xfinity markers, plus 18 of the refills, the 25 mil refills. And I really didn't need more markers, but I wanted more markers. I wanted to increase my my choice of markers. Now I have to rebuild the shelf on the side of my desk so I can fit more markers. I've got some. Hold on. This is going to be the new shelf that goes on the side of my desk. Because the old one I have is sort of two shelves that I put on different times. And one of them is like half this size. And one of them is like just a little bit narrower than this. So I'm going to put this on the side so I can fill the whole thing up with racks of markers. It can fit probably 2 more racks than my current shelf has on the side of my desk. So that's what I do. I add things onto the side. The side of my desk is about, let's see here. My drawing table, I think, is 42 inches wide. My drawing table is 42 inches wide. And now it's going to have a full 8 more inches on the left side. And it's already got 12 inches on the right side of shelves to put stuff on. Just like the desk is never wider enough. I need more places to put pins. And I have, remember those, what are they called? Those side trays they used to have at Marvel on the desks?
Yes.
On the drawing tables, they sell them. There's a side tray for a drawing desk. You screw it on to the bottom of your desk, and it's got pencil holders and slots and stuff like that.
Right. I have that on my art desk.
I've got one of those on my art desk. Then I've got other pen holders attached to that. It was like I have that tray there, and then I'm like, I got a pen holder here. Oh, I got to attach that. So they're like wired on. And so I have about 50 pens along this side of the desk, just in all those little pen holders. And I used to, here they are, and a lot of them, do you recognize this pen holder right here?
Yep. I have one very similar to it.
This is the one that comes with the side tray.
Yeah.
So it's like, one of the pockets and one of the little areas in the side tray has this pen holder. It fits 8 pens. It's a nice side tray. What would happen at Marvel is eventually those side trays would break because all it is it's plastic. It's a plastic side tray with 2 plastic arms that come underneath the side tray. And every 2 or 3 years, those plastic arms would break. And they'd have to get a new side tray for the desk. Every time that happened, I took the little plastic cup, the pen holder. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 of those from 5 different side trays that broke. Just the 8 pen holder. And I built a side tray for my side tray to put those 5 pen holders in to fit 30 pens. But yeah, all of these. See if one comes up. Oh no, they're taped in. Came from Marvel. I was like, I was like, oh, you're getting rid of that side tray? Let me have that little cup. Oh, let me have that little pen holder in it. Yeah, here, sure. But it's like even my I had to. It's like the plastic arms on my side tray broke decades ago, so I had to make my own wooden ones and screw it in there. So that's why I'm going to get a new shelf over there. Even more pens in it.
Yeah, my old art desk had that type of tray, and the desk ended up going, but I still have the tray.
Yeah, the pretty standard side tray you can find on any at any art supply store. They come in handy. You have a side tray on your desk, Chris?
No.
No.
Nope.
He's a digital artist now. He doesn't need a side tray.
No, I never liked it because I always wanted to use the freedom to use my T-square from either side of the desk.
I have a parallel rule. That was my solution. Which I got to tell you, I haven't used my parallel rule in like 15 years. I just kind of stopped ever using it. I used to use it all the time. Now I use gridded rulers, and I often, if I'm doing something with straight lines on it, I'll print, like a lot of times I'll make the straight lines on the computer, print it out and ink right over that. So I was like, I realized maybe 10 years ago, I was like, wow, I haven't used this. I could probably take this parallel rule right off my desk and never miss it, because it just sits at the top of my desk with a bunch of stuff on it, piled on it. I was like, yeah, do you ever use a T-square anymore?
Almost never.
Yeah,
I rarely have to use one.
The last time I was drawing comics on paper, I used it, but
yeah.
Now everything I'm doing is digital.
I still make. For years I used, where is it? I used a gridded triangle to make anytime I had to make straight or parallel line, or I use a gridded triangle, which wore out recently. So I got, remember these? One of these gridded rulers I use all the time. If I got to make, parallel lines or line things out, this is, there you go. You can line this right up with the edge of the page and make a parallel. So it's like I don't even. Plus, I've got my half hatching machine. If I have to make a series, it's just amazing. It just amazed me how, there we go. It's like T-square parallel rule. Used one all the time for like 15, 20 years, and then didn't. Even though I'm still drawing stuff on paper.
Yeah, the T-square that I have was the one that was given to me as a gift in high school. And I still have it. I still use it, but not as much as I used the I've used this so much more. And the same type of ruler you just showed, I have a couple of those as well. And it's just because most of this time is just to use it to make panels, and the T-square is just so much bigger. There's no real reason to use it. I think I might
bigger
use
and clumsier
more for cutting. Measuring something I'm going to cut.
Right.
Because it might
and what it is too, a parallel rule is a lot easier to use and sort of more elegant than a T-square, because it's attached to your desk with wires, and you pull it down but your whole desk has to be free too.
Yeah.
Because it rolls it's the entire length of your desk. So it's like you can't have stuff on your desk, which I almost always do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the for a while my drawing table was big, but on it I would have a smaller table, and that had the attached ruler on it.
Right.
And it was like I used that for a long time because I needed the rest of the space for all the markers and stuff like that. Eventually I got a bigger desk where I have like a side drawer that I put stuff onto, and that's where my markers have been going lately. But I still, I try to keep the desk itself clean, but at the same time, I tend to put stuff on it. And so for a long time, I would have the desk elevated to keep things from being put on it. Because if not, if I put something on, it will slide off. So I know I could keep the desk clean that way. But eventually, it's like when I'm working, especially doing sketch cards, I don't need that much space. I can use that space for all the markers. And I tend to work, when I work, especially on sketch cards, I tend to be very messy with the markers. So I need the flat surface to just drop the markers down, because these are the main 5 colors I'm using. I want to keep, using them back and forth and stuff like that. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Or if I need to refill, because sometimes I have to refill them as I'm working on them.
Right.
So I need to keep the refill on the desk as well.
All right. Well, we should say good night now and let Paulo get to sleep. Mm-hmm. Any last words, Chris?
Thanks for coming, everybody. Good night.
All right. Some good last words from Chris.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night out there, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.